Okay, so for those of you wondering what happened to the Saturday game and where is the review of those, I already did it yesterday, and if you want to check that out, you can always go on to the MLS Matchweek review playlist that I have, or just wait till the end of the video where I basically will have it in the end screen. But since I already did those 7 games, that means that I only need to do 4 games today, and this video would be a little bit shorter than usually I would do on Sunday, where I would do pretty much the entire 12 game slate of this match week. But yeah, either way, let's take a look at the Sunday games. There was 4 games, and by the way, I didn't realize today was the day where the daylight saving thing is over, and that you now have to move the clock 1 hour faster. In other words, you lose an hour of sleep. So when I woke up today, I look at the clock and it says 12 o'clock, and then I basically opened the ESPN Plus app and decided to watch these 2 games. I realized that that game was already at halftime because, yeah, I forgot to realize that, today is the day where the clock moved for 1 hour, and I basically missed the first half of both of these games. But either way, speaking of both of these games, let's talk about the SKC versus Philly game, which SKC, of course, won that one 2-0. And I was kind of surprised that Peter Vermees decided to put in a pretty strong squad coming into this game, considering the fact that you are playing against Independiente in the middle of the week, and sure, yes, you are playing them at home, but you're still down 2-1 on aggregates, and I thought he would probably save his best squad for that game so that they can move on into the semifinal. So yeah, I mean, I hope it will work out for him. It looked like he thinks that with the squad that was able to kind of get a resort down in Panama, able to get that away goal where they can come back to Kansas City with a chance to just grab one goal, and that they can just move on into the next leg. But I feel like he could have just put in kind of his second team and just save some of the best starters that he has for that game against Independiente. But either way, they still get the win in this game, and there was definitely some controversial moment in this game. In the first half, Elias Sanchez, by the way, converts a penalty. He didn't score that goal. Elias Sanchez, of course, is their penalty kick specialist after the Union conceded a penalty. But then the Union themselves had a penalty late in the first half, and Fabian, of course, trying to step up to potentially tie the game up, but it was saved by Tim Melia. And remember how yesterday I said Zach Steffen is considered probably the best penalty kick stopper in the league? Maybe we should add Tim Melia on that list too, and both of these guys will probably need to battle out of who exactly is the best penalty kick stopper, because both of them look very, very good. And then in the second half, Marco Fabian actually got sent off, and this call, there was definitely a lot of controversy, and a lot of people say that this shouldn't be a red card. And when I look at this incident, I'm going to take an unpopular opinion stand, and I'm going to take the stance that a lot of people don't agree on, and that, of course, is that I think it's a red card. When Johnny Russell, of course, slid down and Marco Fabian was trying to avoid him and jumped up in the air, it looked like when he jumped up in the air, he could have easily landed and avoid Johnny Russell. And when he was in the air, it looked like his feet did kind of intentionally decide to stomp Johnny Russell. Now, the argument for those people that said it's not a red card is because when you basically jumped up and avoids a sliding challenge, you have nowhere to land. Well, here's the thing. I see many times before where when a guy decided to avoid a sliding challenge and decide to jump up, it is very rare. You see a guy that jumped up and then when he lands onto the ground that he accidentally landed on his opponent that was making the sliding challenge. And in this case, again, my biggest evidence of why I think that's a red card is because it looked so intentional. It looked like Marco Fabian could have easily jumped over Johnny Russell, and that right leg of him just sticking out and stomping Johnny Russell, yeah, that is a clear-cut red card. But again, I know there's going to be a lot of hate in the comments section and there's going to be some disagreement, but it's my stance of how it is. And like I said, I'm taking an unpopular stand in terms of this because there's a lot of Union fans that say that shouldn't be a penalty. And even some fans that is not fans of the Union said that shouldn't be a red card. So yeah, I'll let you guys decide in the comments below, and I'll make sure I'll read it too, even though the some of the people that comment in the section below is just gonna completely disagree with what I'm saying. But Sporting KC did get a second goal. Elliott, of course, unfortunately scored an own goal, and that, of course, is your final score of this game. Shots in this game, Sporting KC had 16 shots compared to 15 that the Union has. Both teams had 4 shots on goal. Sporting KC had 6 shots off target compared to 5 that the Union had. Both teams had 6 shots that was blocked. Sporting KC had 65% possession compared to 35 that the Union has. So, certainly for Sporting KC, it's a good bounce back win. And for the Union, I said coming into this game, I was hoping that maybe they can get a victory considering the fact that Sporting KC was playing a weak team, but it turns out they didn't play a very weak team. Although I think if you're a Union fan, you would definitely not be happy with the fact that, of course, the red card, but also the fact that Marco Fabian missed a penalty, and that was a good chance for you to basically get it to 1-1 and maybe even get it to 1-1 at halftime. But next up, it's the first game this season where it ends in a scoreless draw. This time it's between NYCFC versus DC United. And despite the fact that this was a scoreless draw, there was definitely a bunch of action. And this was a game that really was the game of the goalkeepers. Both goalkeeper Bill Hamid and Sean Johnson put on an absolute clinic in this game. I think for me, I feel like NYCFC certainly had more of the chances, and if you ask me who actually win this goalkeeping battle, well, technically nobody did because it ends in a scoreless draw. But if you ask me who actually kind of win the goalkeeping battle, if you don't look at the score, I would say it would be Bill Hamid because NYCFC had so many chances late in the game, and they had chances where all they had to do was just slot it home from about 5 or 6 yards out, and yet somehow every time Bill Hamid basically kind of denied NYCFC to score the goal to potentially win the game. And yeah, I mean, DC in this game, they definitely didn't play very well. They did had some decent chances in this game, but I feel like NYCFC definitely had more of the chances, especially what happened late in the second half. Shots in this game really kind of tells the story of why NYCFC kind of had more of the chances. They had 21 shots compared to only 7 that DC had. 6 shots on goal compared to 3 that DC had. 10 shots off target compared to just 1 that DC had. And 5 of them was blocked by NYCFC compared to 3 that DC United has. NYCFC had 66% possession compared to 34% possession. So you know how in the last game DC United have guys like Lucho Acosta, Wayne Rooney, and all the other supporting cast was kind of on their A game and was firing on all cylinders. In this game, that was not the case. They were very quiet. Lucho Acosta was very quiet in this game. Same with Wayne Rooney, and this is why I just think that this is the problem of why I think DC might not compete with the Red Bulls and Atlanta. I said last week that maybe they can compete against those two teams, but if they can figure out their road form. And in this game, it showed that their road form is still kind of very similar to last year. I mean, they did get a point out of this game, but you would think that with NYCFC, especially how things have been going for the first 2 games, and there's definitely a lot of concern with this team, especially today, that they just could not finish in this game. You would think DC maybe capitalize on this and maybe get a win out of this game. But either way, moving on into a team that DC did beat last week, and that, of course, is Atlanta, who drew 1-1 against FC Cincinnati. So Cincinnati, they get their first ever MLS point this week, and certainly I don't think a lot of people thought that they would get their first ever point against the defending champion and against them in their own house. You know, Atlanta, I definitely think that there is a lot of concern with this team, not just heading into that Rayados game where they need to try to come back from a 3-0 deficit, but maybe in the future too, because in this game, they definitely did not look very good. They look very similar to what happened down in Mexico on Wednesday, where they look very disjointed. Although, for the first 5 minutes, it definitely did not look like that, because 5 minutes into the game, Martinez scores from Gresso, and it was 1-0, and you would think that, okay, looks like Atlanta is getting ready to put an ass whipping on FC Cincinnati. And really, at that point, you know, if you're an FC Cincinnati fan, you know what's going to happen. You know that it's going to be a repeat of what happened when they faced against the Sounders last week. But to their credit, they did a really good job in terms of defending after that, although a lot of that had to do with just Atlanta. After 5 minutes, they just never got things going. Like, it feels like for the first 5 minutes, that was the Atlanta that we saw from last season, and for the rest of the game, it was the Atlanta that we saw against Rayados. Like, there was just no cohesion whatsoever in that team. And even, you know, Pity Martinez, the guy that he was supposed to be the guy that replaced Miguel Almiron, and I know it's still very early to say that he is clearly, like, with the way that he's coming with to Atlanta, and that he's clearly not the guy to basically replace Miguel Almiron because of the performance that he has shown in the last couple of games. But yeah, the last couple of games, he has definitely not performed very well with this team and have not done what Miguel Almiron would do with this team. I mean, if Almiron was still with this team, I can guarantee that Atlanta would not be down 3-0 against Rayados and would probably not drew in this game. That is how important he was with the team. And, you know, when Pity Martinez came off of this game, he looked frustrated as hell. And it's the same thing with the other Martinez, Joseph Martinez. I mean, he did get a goal in this game, but in the second half, he was just so frustrated that at one point, when the ball came to the Cincinnati goalkeeper and he couldn't get it, he immediately went to the advertising board and just just kicked the advertisement board. And you can even hear the sound through the ESPN broadcast that he was just incredibly frustrated with the fact that he's not getting the service and he's not getting the chances that he used to get when Almiron is there. And then in the second half, you know, the game continued to stay at 1-0. And in some way, FC Cincinnati, they didn't really create it that much, but that was kind of expected because, you know, when you saw Cincinnati last week against the Sounders, it's clear that their attack is still not ready. But they did bought Kenny Sayer from Anderlecht doing this midweek on loan, and boy, did that move paid off instantly, because in the 86th minute, Roland Lamar scores from guess who? Kenny Sayev, who literally came on in the 60th minute and made an impact straight away. And that is why I said back in the news of the week of how this was really their missing pieces. And I know Sayev hasn't really been that good with Anderlecht for the last couple of years, but man, FC Cincinnati, when you look at this team and just when you look at the attack, what is one big hole that they are missing on the attack besides maybe the goal scoring department? That is the central attacking mid. And I think Kenny Sayev will bring that to their team, and it clearly shows in this game, and really just change the way how FC Cincinnati has. And yeah, that of course is your final whistle in this game. Shots in this game, Atlanta had 10 shots compared to 4 that FC Cincinnati has. Atlanta had 4 shots on goal compared to 1 that FC Cincinnati has. Atlanta has 2 shots on target compared to 3 that FC Cincinnati had. 4 shot that was blocked compared to none that FC Cincinnati has. And Atlanta had 67% possession compared to 33% possession. But again, you know, when you look at these numbers look very low, especially with Atlanta being at home. And just overall, this game was not fun to watch. And I don't think there is a day where I would say an Atlanta game, especially when they're playing at home, would not be fun to watch because of how disjointed that this team is. And I think for Frank de Boer, he's got to figure this out. Like, either he abandoned this 3-4-3 system because it's clearly not working with this team, or the fact that, you know, he's gotta maybe create a new formation, try to see how it goes. Because right now, coming into that Rayados game, I have a feeling Atlanta is not going to come back from this. Like last week, I had a feeling that they might not come back. After this game, yeah, you better believe I am 99% sure, or maybe 96% sure. I'm gonna be a little bit, I'm gonna be a little bit kind of gentle with Atlanta, because Atlanta fans would be mad at me for saying that they have no shots in that midweek game against Rayados. But the way that they've been playing lately, it is going to be they need a really quick turnaround in order to come back from that two-legged affair. But next up, and finally, LAFC. They won 4-1 against the Timbers, and this was really the only blowout game of this week, because a lot of these games was very tight and very low scoring. And, you know, for LAFC, they are really showing to everybody that this team is definitely going to be like what Atlanta United was last season, which is they're going to compete for Supporter Shield. First half, Mark Anthony K scores from Carlos Vela. Vela had an incredible game where he scored a goal and 2 assists in this game. But then Abobasi ties it up from Valeri, and Abobasi actually had a couple of decent chances to not just score 1 goal in this game. And I think especially in the second half, where he had a one-on-one opportunity against Tyler Miller, and I think it was Zimmerman that was actually blocked the shot. And I think the only reason why Abobasi had his shot blocked was he just took way too long to basically shoot the ball into the back of the net. I think that's one of the main problems that Abobasi is having, where he just does not release the ball sooner. I mean, I know he can be a very deadly goal scorer, but he needs to release the ball sooner. That is going to be the way that he's going to become that potentially good striker that everybody think that he could. But then LAFC, right on the stroke of halftime, scores from Ramirez, and I put that as a question mark because I think this might be later changed as an own goal, because when the ball was coming in, it looked like Cascante, the Portland Timber center back, actually kind of tapped that one into his own net, and both Ramirez and Cascante was going for the ball at the same time, and it just looked like Cascante actually got there before Ramirez did, and unfortunately Cascante of course put it into his own net. But as of now, it still says it's going to be a goal from Christian Ramirez, although I'm not quite sure. By the time I found out after I finished recording this video, they might have changed this goal. But then in the second half, Diamande scores from Vela and Blessing, and Diamande literally just came on the pitch and he just scored instantly, and it just makes me wonder, man, this guy maybe needs to start. It's hard to believe how stacked this LAFC attack is. There is just so many good attack that this team has, that even Diamande, who is arguably showing us that he is going to be a guy that's going to score a ton of goals, but yet he's still only coming off the bench because other player like Christian Ramirez is also contributing too. Their depth in terms of the attack is just ridiculous. And then Vela, of course, scored his goal from Diamande. So Vela, of course, 1 goal and 2 assists, and Diamande with 1 goal and 1 assist. And that was really the final whistle of that game. And also, I forgot to put this down, but Diego Chara obviously got sent off with a second yellow card right around when that 4th goal was scored from LAFC, and now Chara, of course, will be suspended for the next game, which means that most likely the Timbers are not going to win the next game, because whenever Diego Chara is not in the Timbers team and did not play in a game with the Timbers never able to get a win. So in terms of the shots, LAFC had 18 shots compared to 12 that Portland has. I mean, at one point, this game was really end-to-end. And really, the reason why it was a big score from LAFC was that they kind of just pulled away in the second half. And That's why they made it into a very big score. Shots on goal, they had 7 shots on goal compared to 2 that Portland has. 6 shots off target compared to 5 that Portland has. And both teams had 5 shots that was blocked. LAFC had 60% possession compared to 40 that Portland has. So, like I said, LAFC, this team, with the way that they look in the first 2 games, they definitely look like they are going to be competing for a supporters show and maybe even competing for Sporting KC for that top spot in the Western Conference. And as for Portland, well, they need to fix their defense. I mean, their defense was really bad in this game, and it was bad against the Rapids, although that kind of didn't count because it was the Snow Classico, and usually when you're a defender and you have to defend in that kind of weather, it is incredibly hard. But this game definitely shows that their defense, it's not just the snow that was the reason why they were very bad defending against Colorado, but it's just their defense just not very good whatsoever. And we'll see if they decide to bring in some reinforcement soon, because for the Timbers, this is going to be rough. And we knew that coming into this season, this first half of the season is going to be rough for them, because that 12-game road trip, knowing the Timbers do not do well on the road, yeah, it is clearly showing. And, for the Timbers and for Giovanni Savarese, the only good thing that you could say about the Timbers is that you hope that once you get out of this 12-game road trip, you can come out of that in a position where you're not above the red line, but you're close to it, so that you can make a run in the second half of the season. Just do what DC United did last season and just win all their home games so that they can be right up there in the Western Conference. I mean, for me, I don't really think Portland is in any dangers, because everybody knew that this was potentially going to happen. It's just that this means that it will kind of put a little bit pressure on them in terms of winning at home. But knowing the fact that they've been doing so well at home for the past couple of years, I'm assuming they will, of course, make the playoffs, even if we're going into May and that they find themselves in the bottom of the Western Conference. But yeah, either way, guys, that is pretty much it for my review. Let me know in the comments below what do you think of these games. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.